The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our main website is xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is author Dina Rae. She has published 4 novels in thriller, horror, and paranormal genres. Her passion for conspiracy theory is obvious as she continues to mix fact into her fiction, leaving readers wondering about the truth. She holds a Master of Arts from Roosevelt University. Miss Rae continues to guest on multiple conspiracy radio shows, convinced that the New World Order looms around the corner. Big Agri, Big Pharma, and Big Conspiracy is her first nonfiction book. Her other works are The Last Degree, Bad Juju, Halo of the Damned, and Halo of the Nephilim. Her website is www.dinarae.co. And joining me now is Dina Rae. And Dina, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you so much, Rob, for having me.
Dina, where does your passion for writing come from?
Well, my day job is an English teacher, and I teach special ed kids reading and writing. So it's always been in me.
And the New World Order, is it real, or is it just an imagination concept that people who don't understand the actual workings of society have come up with this to explain what they don't understand?
Well, I believe it's very real. Of course, there's no proof to any of this. It's a gigantic conspiracy that's shrouded in secrecy by who's who of the world, as I'm sure you and your listeners know full well. There's an inner circle running things, and us peons don't really know what's going on.
But if it's a conspiracy, there's no proof. How do we know it's real?
Well, there's a lot of things that suggest that New World Order conspiracy theory is true. For example, there's an annual Bilderberg meeting that takes place all over in major cities all over the world, especially Canada, especially Europe, sometimes the United States. In the Bilderberg group, everybody who's who shows up, leaders of countries, CEOs of major corporations, princes, kings, academia, professors from highfalutin universities.
Right.
Anybody who's got a lot of power shows up at these things. Nobody knows what's discussed. There's security up the yin-yang.
Yeah.
So it's kind of suspicious.
I don't see anything suspicious about that. You've got, like you said, kings. You've got VIPs, head of businesses. I can understand the tight security in today's society. Private organizations don't release all their information to the public. So what makes this such a targeted aspect of society?
Well, if they wanted to hold a meeting with each other, then why wouldn't they do it above board and have a UN convention or something like that? Why wouldn't they invite a reporter or two in to, cover the event? Everything's done on the down low, and it just why do all of these people need to talk to each other in the first place?
Well, is it any of our business? Do we have to know? Is it going to affect the way we see tomorrow? So I don't understand what the big deal is.
Well, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
I just don't get certain connections with, the Sheikh of Saudi Arabia, conversing with the professor at Harvard, who's conversing with Google, who's conversing with eBay CEO. So it's just, I don't know. It's suspicious.
Is it because we don't run in their circles, and there might be a little bit of jealousy that we don't have the same access to these people as those who are invited to these meetings? And maybe there's good reason why these meetings are closed. Like, there's many meetings around the world that aren't open to the public, so why should we just target the rich, the famous, and the powerful?
Well, that's definitely one way to look at it. There's that's only just one piece to the gigantic jigsaw puzzle when you're talking New World Order conspiracy. For example, there's, the Bitcoin, which is gaining ground. You and your listeners probably know that it's replacing cash as currency, and it can be used internationally.
All right, you and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, aguidinglight, spelled LITE.com, to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Exonation, Dina Rae is our guest this hour. And Dina's website is dinarae.co. That's DINARAE.co. Before I went to the commercial break, Dina, we were talking about the Bitcoin, and isn't that just a sign of progress? Like, don't we want world trade? Don't we want to be able to have the freedom that electronic currency brings to one and all? It gives a better sense of security.
Well, again, I mean, yes, you raise an outstanding point, but then you're hitting the nail right on the head. Mm-hmm. It provides a global way of paying for things, which is the whole crux of New World Order conspiracy. Well, one world government.
Yeah, but is this the crux of progress? Like, we can say the same thing then about the internet, that the internet is part of the New World Order and is part of a bigger conspiracy. And I think that people want to reach out and grasp at these straws because it gives them something to do. Like, up until now, give me one example where all of this one world currency, this one world communication has done anything wrong.
Well, here's something that's a little bit more tangible. Okay. We've got UN Agenda 21. Mm-hmm. They're talking about sustainable development, which many believe is an outline in writing that describes the beginning of a one world government. And of course, many worry that there's a vague term in there that suggests that private property will be taken away.
Well, the government
that's something on the book.
The government expropriates property now as it is. This is nothing new for state, federal, municipal governments. They do that now.
What do you mean? Take away people's property?
Sure they do. Sure they do. It happens every day of the year. It's nothing new. For example, if the government wants to put a road in from point A to point B, that's expropriation. That's the government. Easement. That's the same. That's the exact same thing.
But they have to. Yeah, but they have to compensate the owners of fair market value of the land. And if you don't believe that their offer is fair market, then you can get a lawyer and get a court date and argue it. In UN Agenda 21, you don't have any of those options.
But don't forget, the United Nations only applies to the states that are part of it. There are many countries who are not part of the United Nations, and there are many countries who object to everything that the United Nations says, even though they're member countries. So I don't think that you'll ever see a clean sweep.
I don't know. The people who are involved in the UN are again the same people who are, in my opinion, part of the inner circle. They're the ones that have, and the ones that don't want to join the UN either have economic problems, they don't like to follow rules. They're not as developed. So you're talking about members of the UN are wannabe countries that want to have some money and countries that do have money.
So what would be wrong with a one world government anyway? What would be so bad?
Well, I guess I'm a Christian, so everything is wrong with a one world government.
Well, what does Christianity have to do with it? Where does it say in the Bible that it can't be a one? In fact, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the Bible talk and profess about world peace, living with our brothers, sharing?
The Bible also got mad at the first attempt at New World Order, which, if you remember the story of the Tower of Babel, where all cultures came together and built this tower, and God got mad and sent everybody to the four corners of the earth. He did not want people speaking the same language. He wanted different cultures.
That's a nice story. The Bible's full of stories, and I really don't think you can actually put into today's society what the Bible has talked about. For example, we know for a fact there was never a world flood that wiped out.
I would argue with you
What's
on
your
that.
proof? What's your proof? Give me your proof.
Well, we've got all kinds of areas by that Mediterranean in Southern Europe and Northern Africa and the Middle East that appear to have land that appears to be flooded.
Now,
all right. Discovery.
I agree. There are some parts that show there was a rise in the water, but there is no proof whatsoever that the entire world was covered in water. It's impossible for Noah in the Middle East to have had polar bears truck across the oceans to go into this little ark. If you look at the size of the ark compared to the number of animals on this planet and everything else that was supposed to be 2 by 2, the math doesn't work. Plus, if you were to take the entire surface of the world, cover it in water, where would the water go? Where would it evaporate? Wouldn't there be...
Well, they say it recedes after...
Wouldn't there be global proof of this flood, of which there's not?
Oh, I don't know. They can't... There's too many people who can't figure out if there's global warming now, and we've got technology up the yin-yang, let alone thousands of years ago. They can't. There's no way they could tell. When you get down to it, historians really don't know that much about what happened thousands of years ago.
Exactly, and neither do Bible
That's
experts.
True.
So how do we know?
Why it's a question of faith.
All right. So why don't we take the same faith that so many people have in the Bible and apply it to the human race and say, you know what? Maybe if we were to have a global government, things would work a hell of a lot better.
Well, again, if you're a Christian, especially in Daniel and Revelation, they talk about when the world becomes one, there's a leader who they call the Antichrist, and that kicks off the tribulation, which is a big fear among Christians. They don't want one world.
No, so
they believe.
But don't the Christians to have one leader themselves? It's called God. So what's the difference between the rest of the population, of which Christianity is not the major religion in the world, by the way? So so big deal. So get on board with the plan. Let's go forward. Let's live together. Let's solve the problems of the world. And if you're going to hold on to the Bible as a reason why we shouldn't, man, I think it's time that we should look at the fact that maybe today's society has outgrown religion. Is there a need for religion? Or does religion cause more problems than anything else?
Rob, come on. Turn on the news. If you think that religion isn't an issue, then you must not be paying attention to Hamas and Israel duking it out right now. I mean, religion is always going to be a factor. The problem with religion
this is what I'm saying. Get rid of religion, period. Maybe it will be a better world.
No.
Maybe the problems in the world today are because of all the different religions. And because my backyard is greener than yours, my God is stronger than yours, my rules are better than yours. Maybe this is the problem. And if we got rid of all this, it would be a better world.
Well, I would disagree with you, because in every religion there's this sense that, if you do good, you're going to get rewarded when you die.
Yeah.
And if you take away the whole afterlife reward of everything, then why should you contribute to a charity? Then why should you help out your neighbor? Then why should you not steal something that's easy to steal, or sleep around on your husband or wife, or kill someone who's in your way? I mean, there's no set rules for behavior. And
Sure
I mean,
there
some
are.
people argue that that's all religion is. It's a way to for people to obey. But I believe that it's much, much more than that.
I'm going to tell you something. The rules of religion don't apply today. It's the rules that society put forth. It's the rules that society enforces. And it's the compassion that society has for society that is going to see this world through. Because no matter what you do, if you count on religion, it'll give you some feelings of self-worth. But when push comes to shove, I'd rather have an army behind me than holding a book that makes promises that just aren't kept.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
You're a paranormal radio host, correct?
No, I'm a journalist. I'm a broadcaster.
Okay, I'm sorry. Have you ever had, and I know you've had a ton of guests.
Sure.
Have you ever had a guest or guests that have died on an operating table and either met some flames or rose up?
I've never had the experience of having a guest on that says they've had a negative out-of-body experience or near-death experience. Never had a negative. A lot of people have come on and they've talked about how they felt good leaving the body, how they didn't want to come back, how they met a deity at the end of the tunnel, and every religion has a different deity at the end of that tunnel. You know, if you're talking to someone who's a Buddhist, they don't see Jesus at the end of the tunnel. If you talk to somebody who is a Muslim, they don't see Jesus at the end of the tunnel. They see people or entities or spirits, whatever you want to call them, that relate to their own beliefs. And when you have the atheist on, who has had a near-death experience, they see somebody from their past, one of their loved ones, at the end of the tunnel. So my experience is that a near-death experience is a personal event. It does not always have something to do with a religious icon or a religious connotation.
Well, okay, I'll give you that. But I mean, on the other side of the coin, there are people who have burned in flames, and they get out of their operating, or they come out of their operation or out of their coma or whatever set them off in the first place to unconsciousness, and they change their life because they're so afraid of, not living a good life. So, I mean, how do you explain that? Is that, again, the subconscious? They feel guilty about something?
I agree. It could be the subconscious, but like I said, I've never had a guest on the show with over 3,800 interviews under my belt who have come back from having a near-death experience where they've gone to hell or they've burned or suffered any negative effects. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue right here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. My name is Rob McConnell, and I would like to tell you about a very special lady that I have the pleasure of knowing, and that's Miss Sylvia Anthony. Sylvia Anthony believes the golden years are a time to gear up and get busy, not relax and take it easy. She has faced many hardships in her 84 years, but they have made her stronger and more determined. As founder and president of Sylvia's Haven, a shelter for women and their children near Boston, Sylvia has helped transform over 1,086 lives in the past 27 years, not only with housing, but also providing direction as to where they can go to develop the earning skills they want and need to live free from difficult domestic situations. Sylvia's Haven is everything to Sylvia Anthony, even calling it her magnificent obsession. Women who qualify for the program at Sylvia's Haven receive assistance via guidance counselors to find the appropriate job opportunity. Women and their children may remain at the housing for up to 2 years. At the end of this time, or sooner, a woman who is successfully employed and has an apartment or home may leave Sylvia's Haven to begin a new and independent life. Now this is where you come in to help make Sylvia's dream into a reality. Sylvia's dream is to have a Sylvia's Haven in every state to help as many women and their children as she can, and to help this dream come true. A crowdfunding site has been established which can be accessed at www.sylviasdream.org. Now that's www.sylviasdream.org. With your financial help and support, Sylvia Anthony will continue to help those in their time of need, not only in the Boston area, but with her dream of having a Sylvia's Haven in every state of the United States. Your help is needed to make Sylvia's dream come true. Please visit and give at www.sylviasdream.org. Once again, www.sylviasdream.org. And remember, the only difference between a dream and reality is just doing it. We need your help to make Sylvia's dream come true. Visit www.sylviasdream.org. Once again, www.sylviasdream.org. For the X Zone Radio TV show and the X Chronicles newspaper, I am Rob McConnell. Now you can dial in to listen to the X Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Dina Rae is my guest this hour, X Zone Nation. www.dinarae.co. That's DINARAE.co. Dina, you've got a brand new book out. It's entitled Big Pharma, Big Agri, and Big Conspiracy. What's it about?
Well, it's about the pharmaceutical and agricultural industries and how they're just getting out of hand. It's not just a United States, Canadian, North American type of monopoly where they're expanding on a global level, and considering that they're very important industries that we rely on. I believe that they're just getting out of control.
A lot of companies get out of control. Why are you targeting these three? Well,
Big Agri would probably Monsanto. There are other companies. There's a couple of them. There's Monsanto, Syngenta, Dow, DuPont. Monsanto is probably the biggest one. And I guess I wouldn't say I'm targeting them, but they're so corrupt right now. I think people need to be aware of what's going on with their food. They've got all kinds of legislation passed from people that they contribute to their campaigns, etc. Most recently, we've got the Monsanto Act of 2013, which Obama signed into law, which basically grants them immunity. So if somebody eats their GMO food and they can prove that person died of cancer or died of something that's related to the GMO food, well, then Monsanto can't be sued. They're immune. So we've got that, and they're expanding on a global level where they're just really taking advantage of third world countries, particularly India. And I don't know if the food is safe or not. Nobody seems to want to go there. We've got all kinds of scientists who find, the rats with organs that are misshapen, and we round up in babies and round up in pregnant women's urine, and we've got all kinds of these reports, but every time it gets published or it gets on the news, something happens and it's swept under the rug. So it's not a long book, it's a short book. And it's meant for people who don't really know what New World Order conspiracy is in the first place and aren't quite sure what the terms Big Pharma and Big Agri are. So it's just kind of a beginner book into people getting too powerful.
What is your main gripe with these people who are powerful? You seem to have a hidden agenda, and I'm trying to get to it, because I've never understood why people get onto their orange crates in the middle of the street and yell New World Order. Like Monsanto and DuPont, all these major companies. Sure, they've done bad. They've screwed up, but so has every other company in the world. Look at GM. How many recalls have they had this year? And yet, you don't hear anybody saying that GM is part of the New World Order. You don't hear anybody saying that the government is protecting GM. So why is it that only certain companies get targeted?
Well, again, when you're talking about the food industry, that's I think Henry Kissinger said the person who controls the food controls the world.
Right.
This is the biggest deal. I mean, this is bigger than gas. This is bigger than oil. What we eat might not be safe, and it seems like nobody's really interested in finding out, which I have a problem with. I would like to know that the FDA is protecting me when I go to the grocery store, not in cahoots with the very companies that are selling the seeds all over the country and the world, for that matter. That's my gripe. I would like to trust that the people that I pay through my tax dollar are doing their job, and they're not being bribed, or in a lot of cases, the FDA is Monsanto. We've got Monsanto employees who skirt on over to the FDA, and the president appoints them in all these high positions, and they rubber stamp their own products. And then once they serve their purpose, they go back to Monsanto, and they make their, seven-figure income. Mm-hmm. So if that's having a problem, then I guess I have a problem. But it's not because of the power. Bill Gates has a ton of power. I don't have a problem with Bill Gates, even though he does own about 500,000 shares of Monsanto, but that's besides the point. What I have a problem with is people getting sick off of food that they're eating that they think is healthy. They're buying fruits and vegetables for their kids, and then their kids get cancer a few years later. That's what I have a problem with.
Okay, now let me ask you, what have you done as a person who is making these claims? Have you gone to your senator? Have you gone to Congress? Have you made direct contact with the FDA? Have you contacted Monsanto and brought your concerns to them? And if so, what have been their responses?
No, I have not contacted any of those people.
Why not? If you've got a gripe, wouldn't that be the natural way to go? Is to directly ask these people the direct questions.
Well, maybe that'll be my next book, Rob.
That should be your first one. Getting your facts straight.
That should be my first one, really.
Sure.
Okay, well, I did get a lot of my facts straight through all of the research. I've interviewed doctors, I've interviewed journalists, and I've interviewed people in the healthcare industry. So it's my first nonfiction book. I'm sure it could have been better, and maybe you're right. I should have got somebody on the blower from Monsanto.
You see,
But
if you notice with the major news companies, when they do a story, and let's just use CNN, they go directly to the White House. They go directly to the White House press conferences. They go directly to the Department of Defense. They go directly to the generals. They go directly to the Secretary of State. They get the questions answered by the people, right, who are responsible. Look what they did with the Department of Veterans Affairs, for goodness sake. They basically toppled it.
Wait, hold the phone here, Rob. I am not a journalist.
But
I am a novelist. There's a huge difference there.
Well, not really,
So,
because what you're doing...
You're putting expectations on me that you would put on, I don't know, Bill O'Reilly or I don't know, whoever these people are.
What I'm doing is I'm challenging you as an author as to the validity of the statements you're making in your book and the statements that you're presenting to your readers based on where did you get your proof.
Have you read the book?
I'm talking to you.
Before you blast it as a bunch of BS, you should read it. I have the facts cited. I have them linked. I have a bibliography.
You did not. All right, but did you go to the FDA?
My sources are New York Times, CNN. It's not like these underground blogs of people who aren't in the field.
What I mean, all right, your legitimate sources. Did you go? You said you did not approach anyone at Monsanto. You did not approach anyone at the FDA. No. You did not approach any senator or representative or any state legislator.
I did not. Whoa! I did not approach the FDA, but plenty of information I got off of the FDA's website, and that's cited in the book.
But why didn't you go directly? Ask them for a quote. Why,
Well, maybe next time I will. I'm not a journalist. I don't really know how this works.
Okay.
I researched the topic and I wrote about it.
Is it possible that people reading your book may get the wrong impression based on the information that you've supplied?
Well, there's a big forward about how I'm a conspiracy buff and how this is a conspiracy theory, and I am not a doctor, so I'm hoping that they form their own opinion.
Why do you think, taking the conspiracy aspect out of it, okay, as a consumer, not as a conspiracy buff here, but as a consumer, when you go shopping, do you read the labels to make sure that you don't buy anything that's not good for you, your family, or anyone that you're going to be preparing food for?
More and more and more, and I'm going to tell you right here and now, it's expensive. It's expensive to eat organic. I think everybody knows that, and that's why they're not doing it, because it's expensive. And when you've got an economy where people are working a couple of jobs to make what they were making 10 years ago to put food on the table, they're not going to pay $6 for a gallon of milk. They're going to pay $3. And who cares even if they know it's loaded with bovine hormones and what else? But they just don't have the money. They don't have the money to double up their groceries. They're barely making ends meet, and I get that.
It seems like people are playing Russian roulette with the food that they're ingesting because they don't want to spend the extra buck for the food that's better for them.
Well, some of them don't even know about it. A lot of people I talked to didn't even know what a GMO was. So I don't know why the news... if anything, you want to talk about fair journalism, well, how come we don't have more journalists on TV talking about GMOs and what they are, and talking about organic food, and talking about why it's not on the label if a food's filled with GMOs?
What research has been done on GMOs that prove that there is a concern that should be shared with the consumers?
Well, there's quite a few small studies with rats. One guy was from Scotland. I'll use him as his example's most recent on my mind. His name is Arpad Putze, Dr. Arpad Putze. He's one of the many examples. He was studying GMO potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 12 or 15 rats that he used, he didn't use a lot of rats, but he found in all of them that their organs were enlarged, and tumors grew on the rats. So they used him to put a safety standard on the potatoes, but he couldn't do that because his findings suggested something else. And he was brave enough to go on the BBC and talk about it. He immediately got fired from his job and cast off, and he was a doctor. He was a doctor, and he got cast off as a quack. His life was pretty much ruined.
Why was he cast off as a quack?
I have no idea.
So
he ran a study.
Yeah.
He had the results. He didn't have an agenda. He went on TV about it, and he was fired.
But is it possible?
That was that.
Is it possible that his research was flawed, and that the facts or the results that he presented on television, based on flawed research, was the result of why he was let go from his job?
Is it possible? I doubt it. I really do. When you're feeding rats nothing but potatoes and that's what happens, I don't know how that's flawed. A good study would be the government saying, oh, well, if that happened to 12 rats, let's enhance this study. Let's bring in 1,000 rats and see what happens. They didn't do that. They didn't give him another chance to expand the study and to see what was going on. They fired him.
Are there any other studies that you know of that you can share with us?
There was another one from a man from Berkeley. I think his name was offhand Chappella. Mm-hmm. And he wrote an article about GMO corn. And again, somehow, I'd have to go back to my book, which I don't have the page earmarked or anything, but as the story goes, this Professor Chappella pissed off the Mexican government because he, again, published an article about how bad GMO corn was, which is something that the Mexicans have really latched onto now. And he, again, almost got fired and so forth.
But he wasn't fired, right?
I'm not sure. Again, I'd have to refer to my book.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our final break for this segment. www.dinarae.co. Dina Rae is our guest this hour. We're talking about her new book entitled Big Pharma, Big Agri, Big Conspiracy. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. And broadcast around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network and our fine family of broadcast radio stations, AM, FM cable, and satellite. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.matstein.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Dina Rae is our guest of this hour, Exonation, www.dinarae.co. Dina, with all the people that we have on this planet, all the mouths we have to feed, the limited resources that we were talking about earlier, is it possible that these companies are trying their best to feed a hungry world and there's no major conspiracy involved except trying to feed the hungry?
Well, that's what they claim, because, again, they're injecting genes to, make, for example, strawberries frost resistant. So a freeze won't, kill a crop of strawberries. Or they're injecting genes to make a salmon, like they call them frankenfish. A salmon weigh, 40 pounds. So that obviously will feed a lot more people. And they're injecting genes for just about everything. And a lot of the genes that they're putting inside of these seeds are called Roundup Ready. They're Roundup Ready, meaning that they've got seed in there that you don't have to dump Roundup on the plants anymore. The bug will eat the plant, and their stomach will burst because it's in the DNA of the plant. So the bugs are getting resistant to these plants, and we're getting superbugs. But you're right. That's what they're claiming, that they'll feed more people. But a lot of times their seeds don't work. One of the most saddest examples of this is what's going on in India. We've got in India these poor Indian farmers who wanted to ensure the best crops that they could for the family, and cut a deal with Monsanto. And guess what? The plants, the seeds didn't work. The plants didn't grow, and they went a year without any crops. And did they get their money back? No. Of course they didn't get their money back.
And what did what was Monsanto's side of the story?
Monsanto's side of the story is there are no guarantees. This is farming, and it, maybe you didn't water correctly, maybe you didn't do this, maybe blah 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 blah. They're like, too bad, so sad. That's life. This is what you bought. This is our product.
But the same thing would have happened to a farmer in the United States as well, or in Canada, or in Argentina. So
absolutely.
So what's the problem?
What's the problem is these Indian farmers started financing for more seeds in hopes that they'd finally get the crop to pay off the farm, and they'll finally make some money, and it never happened. As a result, as of today, over the last 8 years, as of today, we've got 250,000 Indian farmers who killed themselves over this.
And this is Monsanto's fault, right?
Come on. How many times your crop's going to fail before they're going to say, here, these seeds are on us. That's just good business. That's not, we're not, take morality aside.
Mm-hmm.
It's just good business.
All right, Dina, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a rather interesting hour, to say the least. I think the lady's got an axe to grind, Exo Nation. And unfortunately, we didn't have time to find out what that axe really is. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as the X Zone continues from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. By the way, the facts and figures that Dina quoted about the number of Indians who committed suicide in India were not able to be verified or confirmed by any source. We also have farmers in Canada and the United States whose crop fail, and you know what? This truly is part of what happens when you're in farming. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.